Hi everybody, I'm meteorologist Matt Lansing here with yet another video blog and tracking the tropics this evening. We can discuss the cold weather in our area, some of your temperatures. If you want to post them, feel free to do so in the comments section below. In the meantime, we're going to focus on Hurricane Ike, as this is going to become a big story as we go through the next couple of days. Ike spinning off the northwest coast of Cuba, a Category 2 hurricane at this point in time. This is a very well-organized hurricane. It's had its flaws, just like any other system, but it is holding together quite nicely right now. It's still got its structure together nicely as well. It just really hasn't taken off yet. It's only been slowly strengthening, as you'll see in just a second. In fact, here are the currents on Ike. You can see winds about 100 miles an hour. This is as of the 8 o'clock advisory on Wednesday night. Gusts up over 120 miles an hour. But the interesting thing is the barometric pressure there in inches. It's down below 950 millibars. And usually, when you see storms with pressures this low, you start thinking Category 3 or even a low-end Category 4. But this is only a Category 2, despite the fact that it has such a low pressure. And of course, pressure is a better estimate of how strong a storm is than wind. So we're talking about an interesting situation here, because at some point the wind should catch up with the pressure, and that's not going to be pretty when it does, because Ike should rapidly intensify at some point along the Gulf. In fact, the National Hurricane Center track and forecast takes it up to a Category 3, and even briefly a Category 4 hurricane. Makes landfall about a Cat 3 on the Texas coast here and takes it up into Texas, even holds it as a tropical storm all the way up to the Oklahoma-Texas border here, 35-mile-an-hour wind tropical depression in the middle of Oklahoma. So this storm is going to cause a lot of problems, not just at the coastline, but also several miles inland, probably a solid 50, 100, 150 miles inland. We're going to be talking about wind damage from Ike. This is going to be a pretty big storm. More importantly than that, the wave action from Ike is going to be rather significant. The storm surge with this will be much different because this is such a big storm. We'll talk about that in just a second. Let's talk about the exact track. Again, you saw that cone of error on the National Hurricane Center forecast, still from western Louisiana all the way down to extreme southern Texas. Well, here's why. You can take a look at the computer model tracks of the center of Ike. Again, each of these lines represents an individual computer model. And you can see we've got some down here across southern Texas. We've got one even all the way up right into Houston, Texas, and the rest fall in between. So it's still a pretty broad area that's going to be targeted by Ike at this point in time. And again, this could shift either direction here as we get a little bit closer. And the interesting thing is, notice our computer models take it on this type of track right here. Well, Ike, as of late, has been moving more like this. So it's already to the extreme right side of these model forecasts, maybe a little bit off course as well, which is interesting, because that may kind of explain the fact that northern sections of the Texas coast may not be out of the woods at all with this storm. In fact, perhaps taking a direct hit. Let's talk about Ike and the size of Ike. This is a big storm. Tropical storm force winds are indicated by the yellow, some of the hurricane force winds indicated by the orange, and then even the stronger winds than that indicated by the red right in the middle of the storm. What we did is we drew a line across the storm just to kind of indicate how wide it is, how wide that wind field of those tropical storm force winds are. And we'll kind of track it roughly where Ike is supposed to go and lay it here on the Texas coast. And you can see that we're talking about the potential for tropical storm force winds to extend from southern Texas all the way up into central Louisiana. That is a big, big area impacted. Now, it won't be like that, because as Ike does come ashore, most of the wind is probably going to be concentrated on the northern side of the storm. So I don't think you're going to necessarily see tropical storm force winds all the way down to Brownsville as it makes landfall somewhere here on the Texas coast. But those tropical storm force winds will extend well inland here as we go through time. So Ike is a big storm, and because it's such a big storm, it's going to have a lot of waves underneath it and a lot of storm surge as this approaches. The northern section of Ike, whoever's on the north side of that storm, it's going to get pummeled pretty hard by this system. Let's give you just a little bit of a primer of the Texas coast. A lot of people are probably not familiar with how Texas geography works. Here's your Louisiana border. This is Port Arthur, Beaumont, a very big oil refinery area here. A lot of industry in this area. Down here you have Galveston Bay and Galveston, of course, the beach town just to the southeast of Houston, which is obviously the big city there. Galveston was destroyed in 1900 by one of the biggest hurricanes on record to hit the U.S., the deadliest hurricane to ever hit the U.S. as well. So these folks have certainly taken the brunt of some storms in the past. We'll shift you down the coast here just a little bit. South of Houston, it starts to get a little bit different. You have Freeport, Texas here, which is not a huge town, but it's a modest-sized community. Down even further, this is Matagorda Bay. Not exactly unpopulated down here, but a little bit sparsely populated compared to the Houston area. This is a big bay, and a lot of the computer models are kind of honing in on this potentially being the area to be impacted heaviest by landfall. And then a little bit further south than that, you have Corpus Christi, and then south of Corpus Christi, very, very few people, low population, sparsely populated down across the southern Texas coast south of there. So ideally, you would want the storm to come in here. It impacts the fewest people. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're working things out to be quite that way. We pulled some of these maps off, and we'll put the links to these maps in the actual blog just above this video off the National Weather Service website down in Corpus Christi in Houston, Texas. And these maps explain basically storm surge and how it works. I'm going to step off camera here just to kind of draw in exactly what's going on. And if you're looking here, this is Corpus Christi right here, is circling it right there. That's the city of Corpus Christi in Texas. So we're down to the south of where we really think this storm is going to go. But assuming you have a Category 3 storm surge, I mean, look how far inland the surge from this storm can get. Pretty far, and could cause quite a few problems here. You're talking about barrier islands down here that would be inundated, surges coming up some of these little rivers or streams that flow into the Gulf. So that's one thing that we're going to have to watch. Here's another view of things. This is up in the more concerned area, Houston and Galveston as well. You can see that we've got going on here anywhere you're seeing, and this might be very tough to see on the screen. That's why we have those links for you above this. Anywhere you see like these dark reds, I'm kind of drawing a line and outlining. This would be a Category 4 area of concern where we would have water. And you can see how far inland this extends. Even if you have a Category 5 style storm surge, that almost gets into the city of Houston. So that's something that we're going to have to watch closely. The city of Houston should be okay other than maybe wind situations, but some of these larger suburbs here to the east definitely need to be on guard for what could be quite a significant storm surge. Then we'll take you, here is Matagorda Bay right down here. And this is something that we're going to be watching as well, because if this storm does make landfall, these areas are going to get hit. And notice how far inland a Category 4 storm surge goes, way, way inland. So a lot of problems are certainly possible from this storm. You can check out some of these maps, some very interesting maps indeed, down toward the Texas area to kind of focus in on some of this storm surge. We'll keep you posted on this. Again, Ike is going to be a pretty significant storm, we think, in the Gulf of Mexico and affecting Texas. Looks like landfall would be sometime between Friday and Saturday. Looking quite strong right now. We're going to see some changes to this storm over the next 24 hours, not in a good way either. We should see some strengthening from Ike, and Ike should become a major hurricane, I think, by this time tomorrow. Pretty certain we'll have at least a Category 3, if not a Category 4, on our hands. We'll be talking about it. To any questions or comments you want answered, post them in the comments section just below this. Have yourself a good night and a great day.